Hello, today I wanted to talk about a specific example that we saw on Tuesday, July 31st using our Seeker and Comer tools. Really what we're discussing here is the power of both of those tools in the rare occasions that they line up in conjunction with each other. And for those that are familiar with the Seeker and Comer, I think this is going to show really just how powerful and high probability the setups are when you get them both working together. So let's start with, this is a look at the Google. This shows the action from Monday, July 30th, right here, and then going into Tuesday, July 31st. And what you see is early Monday morning we got a 9-bar setup phase. That's the green 1 through 9 count right here heading down on Google. And once that 9 was completed, then the Comer countdown went into effect. And what that looks like is that's the pink or magenta numbers on your screen. Okay, and so once the 9-bar setup is complete, the 2-bar look-back methodology begins, and it starts back on the first bar of the setup phase and looking for the criteria of 2 bars, looking back, closing lower, and having a lower low than the prior 2 bars back. And that's how the Comer works. If you're not familiar with that, you can find more information about that on our site. But what we're looking for is to be making new lows and to be meeting the criteria of 2 bars back, closing below the low of that bar. What happens here is we actually, all the way down, we get to a 12. Now it's the 13 that gives you the buy signal. Okay, so we're looking for a 13 on this count. And the Comer, again, because each piece of the count on the Comer needs to be lower than the last numeric part of the count. In order to get a 13, we need to be below the 12. Just like in order to get, for example, the 6, we were below the 5. Each of these numbers bar is lower than the prior count. Okay, so 5 is lower than 4, 6 is lower than 5, and at the same time they're meeting the 2-bar look back criteria. Well, of course, Google bottomed out on this day right here, so never had a chance for the 13th bar to form because we did not get a close below the low of 2 bars back and also below the low of this 12. So we're looking for literally just one more bar to close below this 630-ish level, make a new low, and that would give us our 13. Now separately, here's a look at the Google chart, same time frame, same period, and this is with the Seeker tool. So again, the setup phase is this 9-bar 1 through 9 count, the green count here on a Tuesday morning or Monday morning. And then from that the Seeker begins. Now remember, the Seeker count is the red count, and it cannot go back to the beginning of the setup phase. It has to begin after the 9. But it's a little more lenient because you don't have to be making new lows with every bar. So it's possible now, without making new lows, to get far along in the count. The one criteria, or what we call a qualifier on the Seeker tool, is that in order to get your 13 sell signal, or buy signal in this case, you need to be below the 8th bar of the count. So even though you can go back up and then come back down and do a 2-bar look back and get another one of these in the count, for example 8 being right here, 9 is way up here. Okay, because the close of 9 is below the low of 2 bars back, but in this case it's not below the prior number, which was 8. That's okay on the Seeker tool. So in this case we get to 9, 10, 11, and 12. So what's interesting here is that each of these asterisks, these red asterisks that you see after that, any one of those could have been a 13 buy signal under the Seeker tool, except for the fact that we have the qualifier, which is that bar, that 13. In order for it to happen, you've got to be under the 8. And as you can see, all these bars over here are not under the 8. So what's interesting is that both the Seeker and the Comer tool got their 12 around the same time, but neither one of them can get to a 13, which is the actual buy signal, unless we're under about that 630 level on the stock. And so because of that, Google trades for an entire day after the setup phase and getting to the 12, waiting for this 13. Now I'm going to show you first on the Seeker when the 13 occurs just by sliding this chart a little bit over. Okay, we have a new setup phase forming. There's your 13 right there on the Seeker. Okay, so about just after 9 a.m. Pacific time, my time, on the Seeker. Now let's do the Comer in real time. Let the chart scroll along. Hang on. So here we go with the Comer. I'll let this play out. Now watch how this happens. Okay, each bar is ticking by. Remember, we're on the 12. We're waiting for the 13 to happen. In order for the 13 to happen, we need to print under the 6:30 level on this chart. And again, this is around 8 in the morning. We're coming up on 9 in the morning here, Pacific Coast time. There's the 6:30. Boom, I paused the chart. So right here, we get a 13. This is the buy signal that relates to this 11, 12, and the rest of this setup back on the prior day. We finally get the buy signal right here. It happens to be the exact same bar that the seeker threw the buy signal. And on top of it, we've got now forming, we're 8 bars into a new 9-bar setup phase, which is also a bullish indicator once the 9 hits. So we've got seeker and Comer buy signals on this chart at this point in time. How does that play out after that? Let's take a look. Remember this risk line, this pink line right here, this would be where you would stop out. So you keep a very tight stop after you go long. Let's take a look and see what happens. There's your 9 also as well. And look how we move back up. There's your buy signal. So what's amazing is not only do we go how many days after, full day after the last setup phase, we got that 12 on both the seeker and the Comer the same day shortly after the setup phase. It takes almost 24 hours later before we can get the 13, and the 13 buy signal both on the seeker and the Comer both come on the same bar. Putting the two together makes the tool extra powerful, and from that we get a definite move back up of several points. By the close we had hit 635 on Google. That's 5 points, almost over 5 points from the buy signal back up in the other direction. So the power of the seeker and Comer together is even better and gives you a higher probability entry than either one of them by itself.